That was President Obama just earlier today after he met with Attorney General Loretta Lynch and FBI Director James Comey, discussing new gun proposals that he's going to put forward this week as executive orders. Now, one effort will be to expand the background checks on gun sales by forcing more sellers to register as federal licensed gun dealers themselves. He's also formally revealing his actions again. I think there's a town hall on Thursday, too. The big question is it too late, or does Congress even have the guts to step in? Joining me now, Jillian, Melchior, Heather Hansen, Bo Dietl, and Mark Serrano. Mark, you know, I saw a comment from Ryan today saying that President Obama is circumventing Congress. My thought is, so what? He's been circumventing them for 7 years, and you guys never stand up for anything. If I was him, I'd circumvent you, too.
I agree, Charles. The Republicans are part of the problem. I mean, they've sort of asked for it because they've given in to the president time after time after time, again, particularly on budget issues, cranking up our federal debt. So, of course, you know, Ryan's going to say that because it sounds good, but the truth is the Republicans are part of the problem. Interestingly enough, it's not just Republicans who are not going to be cooperative with gun control legislation. It's also Democrats from across the heartland who don't want these restrictions on law-abiding gun owners. Do you know the FBI reported today that in 2015 there were 23 million background checks, and this president wants to bypass Congress, and what does he want? More background checks that will do nothing about the mentally ill or terrorists who are breaking in through our borders.
Right. You know, 23 million last year. That broke the record of 21 million in 2013. 3.3 million December. That was also a record. And since the Brady Handgun Violence Prevention Act in 1998, 225 million background checks. Jillian, people sense that the government coming for their guns, and they want to get them while they can. They're not enthused about it. If you look at the polling, we find that support for the NRA is actually at a historic high since we began collecting statistics on it. 58% of Americans like this. We see gun deaths going actually down, contrary to much of the media narrative. So I think this is something where the president is very out of step with the American public. Congress couldn't pass it after Sandy Hook. The executive action is the only way he thinks this is going to get passed, and he's just going to drive in and do it.
You know, we talk about this every evening. We talk about what happens in our Democratic-run cities, in Chicago, in Baltimore. He should be doing an executive order, getting some FBI guys in those cities, going after those gangs that are killing our minority kids with illegal guns, not legal guns. Stop the nonsense. He doesn't know what to do. He's sitting in there. Yeah. What can I do at the end of my term? Let me try to do this. This is ridiculous that he should get Loretta Young there, whatever her name is, and go after these gangs. I know what her name is.
I think you're talking about someone
I'm just being a little funny. You know what I'm talking about.
To your point, though, it's actually been really interesting watching the police chief in Detroit say, you know, we don't have the response time for this. The best response to crime is an armed citizenry. I think Americans feel less safe, and that's what's driving the growth in guns.
We had someone who was
Hold on one second, Mark. Hold on one second. Go ahead.
I think there's an argument to be made that something has to be done, and I think the president is just grasping at straws. I think that ultimately he's looking for something that will be legal, especially after immigration fell through for him, and so he's just looking for something to do.
Hold on one second, guys, because at this very second we've got breaking news coming out. We've actually got new details on the gun control laws. The guidelines on this new executive action, the ATF clarifying the guidance that anyone selling guns must get a license. Anyone. It doesn't matter if you're selling them online, if you're at a gun show, if you're at a store. This applies to anyone who will sell as few as 2 guns. Heather, the legality of that.
Well, it's really interesting because in 2013, after Sandy Hook, President Obama pressed 23 executive actions, and that's one of the ones that he considered, and he determined that it was probably not going to be legal. So the thought that he's now going to try to implement that is very interesting. I think the legality of this is going to be questionable. I think, you know, we're going to have to see how this stands up in court.
We have a Second Amendment, and this president is trying to take the Second Amendment away. Again, if you can control something, get the FBI controlling the illegal guns in this country.
You know what, Charles?
Yeah, Mark.
Charles, on a political level, I'm delighted that the president is taking this action, because what this will do effectively, I mean, if I were to have one wish in 2016 about Barack Obama, it's, look, be yourself. Do as you usually do. Continue to overreach, you know, illegally to take away citizens' rights, because what's going to happen is the odds of an outsider on the GOP side becoming president start to ratchet up even more. I'm delighted that he's doing this.
You know, it's interesting because Jillian mentioned some of these polls. The president talked about a couple, but for the most part, overwhelmingly, Americans on both sides of the aisle believe in the Second Amendment, and they do not want him tinkering with this. This is dangerous stuff he's playing around with.